That'll be your entrepreneurial circle, right? So you want to have as much light surrounding you, but that also keeps you in check, not just like lifting you up, but being like the same reverse of how you're asking those questions, not being afraid to answer them as well. And
oh yeah,
if you have all of those things going for you, I mean, that is like the path to being like a true light leader and really leading in this conscious way that we're inevitably going to be moving towards in the future for sure.
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Podcast, where soulful entrepreneurship and holistic mind-body wellness meet to help you heal, discover your soul's purpose, and change the world. I'm your host, Gabby Ortega, entrepreneur, psychology expert, social media maven, and soulful leadership coach. And it's my mission to empower you into becoming the light leader you're meant to be. Each episode will be diving deep into topics that will help you gain personal mastery over your healing and mind-body wellness, while also giving you practical tips and tools to help you create, market, and scale a heart-centered business around your soul's purpose and life mission. Whether you're in the beginning of your self-awakening journey or a seasoned inner work god or goddess who's ready to step into their leadership as a soulpreneur, this is going to be your new favorite place to be. We know that you don't just want to feel happier and more fulfilled, but you want to deeply know yourself and powerfully step into your life's purpose while creating massive abundance around your mission. That's why I've created this podcast for you, the light leader of the next generation. Welcome home. I'm so glad you're here. Hi guys, welcome back to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Ortega. We're here today with one of my best friends in the whole world, Dr. Jessica Moy. She is an empowerment and mindset coach for conscious leaders with an emphasis on empowering women of color. And she's just a badass female entrepreneur, also just a really good friend and soul being. And I'm really, really honored and so grateful to have her here with us today. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much. This has been such a funny journey of our friendship, of just being connected via the internet and business, and then turning into like this friendship for life. So I'm honored to be on and chatting with you.
I know. It's so funny. I kind of went through my whole life feeling like, oh my God, no one gets me. I'm never going to make friends that understand me. And then I met you and I was like, oh my God. It was like an instant connection. And I think that's something so beautiful about the Instagram world right now in the social media space, is that we are able, if we can use it for really powerful good and like building relationships that are so built on our authentic self and our true self, because we're able to find people to connect with outside of our physical location. And you and I may not have ever met. We actually haven't met in person.
I know. Yeah, we haven't. Isn't that funny to say? It's like,
It doesn't feel real.
like literally, yeah, online dating for friends, but just like so much more soul aligned, which is so cheesy to say, but actually like super true.
It's super true. And honestly, without Jess's support, like I know I would be floundering in this space. So you guys make connections early on in your business journeys and in your journeys as conscious leaders, because these are the people who you're going to rise with. And these are the people who are going to help you build your programs, and you guys are going to do things together, and you make connections that end up changing the world. So amazing. So tell us, first of all, I always like to ask the same question. What makes you feel like your most light leader self?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think it's taken me some time to find, and I think it's ever evolving, right? Like as we grow as humans, as we grow as entrepreneurs and leaders, but really what makes me feel the most empowered to lead from an aligned and conscious way is really honoring my ancestral wisdom and truth, and then really staying adherent to a spiritual practice, right? Like in the wellness space that I started off in, it's really easy to find these quote unquote intuitive beings that are like very flowy, and which is really great. But I think also having structure provides this freedom to do that. So for me, starting my day off with a solid boundary of not engaging with any sort of interaction, whether it be virtual or in person, even before I've really grounded myself in my day and how I'm showing up, like, because I think when we recognize what we're embodying, that is what is perpetuated to our clients, to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really important to me. And then from there, just like really honoring, like I said, this gut feeling that I have, because I think it's taken me a really long time to be okay with that, especially when it goes against the grain of what has been projected onto us and taught to us with these like intrinsically subconscious patterns, right? So
Yeah.
those are like those two things. I think they really go hand in hand in enabling each other as well. But that, I guess, is like the secret sauce for me right now.
Oh my God, I love that. I think, so many things are in there to dive into. I mean, first of all, having like a really juicy spiritual practice is something that I never ever had in my life. And 100%, I feel like I'm in my most light leader self when I have my spiritual practice really up and running. And like I'm regularly touching base with that soul voice every day, because you're right, you carry a lot of stuff into your sessions, into your client work, and at least be aware of what it is so you can be in control as much as possible. And then so you can process for yourself, parallel process your experience as you are leading and guiding so that you can lead ethically. I think it's really hard to lead ethically when we are not doing
Yeah.
our own work. But yeah, and I think that
Yeah,
also
100%.
and the ancestral wisdom is just, and the gut feeling is like, wow, we have been so conditioned to to not even like ignore it, but to like hate it, to see it as something like that's wrong with us. And I think like that is such a huge shift that I'm seeing recently, is that people are going back to trusting that intuition and starting to tap
Yeah.
into that ancestral wisdom, body wisdom, like the collective consciousness. And that's really beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think too, the beautiful part of it is that every day I can show up differently, but still hold space for however that is, and then still also serve from this really authentic place. But like, I'm not always at that high caliber level all the time too, and that's part of that human experience, and not spiritually bypassing, right, like what's showing up.
Yeah,
Um,
so important.
but that body embodiment practice has really been integral in like where I am today, and also where I hope to serve from a really like resonant level, and not just the superficial surface level of like, here's XYZ, here's what I do, like, cool, and then at the end of the day, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. I think that's so great. And you've done, I know, all the like the inner work, and you're really so self-aware, and you're now diving into this incredible space of conscious leadership coaching, which I think you're so perfect for. And we've
Oh.
both kind of noticed this shift, right? Where there's a lot of people moving towards having diverse and inclusive and equitable businesses, wanting to be conscious leaders, wanting to change the paradigm and shift the way that we perceive we can create society and experience success and happiness, versus just like what we're doing now, which is so focused on the bottom dollar and like stratifying and kind of differences and them versus us. And like it's just an amazing shift, and I think it's a shift that we as a human species need to start moving towards as well. But I'd love to hear what you think about this, and where you think we're going, and just what your opinions are on it.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, you have embodied this practice yourself, because, right, like your journey came from finding your own inner work and finding that own inner experience, and then sharing that truth, and then people gravitating towards that. And then that's when, the quote unquote success comes with the financial and sustainability of a business. So really, I think that's kind of where we're moving towards, is this conscious business model of recognizing that people over profit is not a weakness, that it is
Yes.
the thing that is going to drive us towards creating ethical and sustainable business and leadership practices that serve not just others, right? Because I think often in this line of work, it's really easy to give, give, give. So we're serving, but we're also enabling ourselves to receive and feel worthy of that, and then not feel also that sort of icky feeling that comes with being a martyr and like not being able to acknowledge that we also need to be supported both spiritually, emotionally, financially, socially. So that's kind of where I think we're going. And I think from what I've seen in my own experience and my amazing circle that is kind of moving in this direction with me, and my clients moving from this place of like seeking and performing action from a fear-based model and kind of panic, and then instead moving from a place that feels like really stepping into their power and truly being able to say like, I don't really care what's going on around me because this is my soul lane and I am the main driver in this path I'm in. So I think once people start to change that mentality and really also start to unpack, right, the decolonization work, not just for women of color, white women as well, in this society that has like kind of thrown at us, right, a lot of patriarchal, a lot of like capitalist mentalities, and really examining how they're showing up in our own practices and our own businesses. And then like the floodgates open, right? Because we're able to sustainably serve and not feel like guilty about it, because under a lot of that emotion of fear, of like panic and anxiety and depression, is like fear and guilt and shame. And so that's kind of why I moved into this space, right? Because people were coming to me for more of a somatic practice of like, I want to get rid of this, or like this is showing up in my body. But once we change the script of like, instead saying, what are the things that I need to fix? Asking like, what are the things that I'm looking for? Like, what are my actual desires and what is fixing that serving? Like that real root. Then it goes beyond into like this space of conscious leadership, right? Because how can someone lead without being like really well in their body and their selves? So that was kind of like a mouthful, but it's just this really holistic experience and this really holistic mentality of how we are moving as a collective, really.
Oh, just soak that all in, guys. That's I like wisdom, straight wisdom. And I agree with everything you're saying. I think there's such a desire to stand in integrity, to embody the work that we are asking others to walk through. People come to us, because they are looking for that support. But what's really happening is that there's like a root of, pain, fear, distrust, feelings of not belonging, of unworthiness. And it's like, what do we need to deconstruct, to decolonize, so that we can empower you to go after everything that you want to go after? Because all the things that you see a therapist or a coach for are usually, like, if we think of a tree, kind of the branches and leaves that are all seem to be unrelated. I have issues with my boyfriend or girlfriend or partner. I have, issues with my boss or my job, or I have issues with myself and I'm angry at myself, or I hate myself, and all of these things. They all have a root, and finding that is so important in the programming and understanding like what's our belief system versus what belief systems have been imparted upon us that we have internalized and, then created meaning about ourselves from.
Yeah, definitely. And when I was practicing as a clinical physical therapist, a lot of times I liked, and this is kind of ties into this as well, a lot of times people were like, I want to fix my ankle because it hurts. Okay, so when you're looking at just this one isolated piece, it's so hard to quote unquote fix because you're not relating it to the whole body. And so instead of framing it like that, it's like, well, what are the things that you want to do that your ankle has afforded you the ability to do? It's the same parallel for coaching and conscious leadership. It's like, okay, I want to be a better presenter, I don't know, for my job. Like I have a lot of fear around presenting. Okay, so it's like taking that one little microcosm of a skill or a thing and being like, okay, well, where does that fear come from? And also, why do you think you need that skill? Like, how is it going to serve your greater purpose in your job, whatever it is? So I think our like soul calling as light leaders is to really like expand our community and our clients and our audience's lens of like what they can create and achieve and do, while also touching on the like little things that are necessary but also maybe aren't necessary and come from, again, like what you said, that like societal pre-programming of thinking that we need an XYZ skill or an XYZ thing, you know? And so that too is something that I feel we're moving towards in this like expanded lens that's going to shift how we look at leadership, how we look at business, how we look at entrepreneurship, and just really like step out of the grind. And I was talking to my client earlier about like the difference between like hustling to hustle and then really creating this like holy hustle that is really for her rest practice and her self-care
I love that.
practice. Like that's the true hustle. Like that's the stuff that's hard.
I
You know,
totally agree. It's way harder to
yeah,
sit back and take a step back and rest than it is to like go and be distracted and forcing yourself to just like nose to the grindstone. Because that's also how we've been conditioned to think we're supposed to be. And
right?
we feel like we're being good. You know, we get that little dopamine. Oh, I'm being good. I'm being a good worker. I'm like, look at me being a good entrepreneur, just like not getting any sleep. You know, it's like we can't do that. Yeah, there has to be
Yeah.
some kind of rest. And my biggest challenge, and this is also because I fucking love what I do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
live for what I do every single day, is that I overwork naturally because I love connecting with my clients. I love like giving them hype on Instagram and on their sales pages
Yeah.
and giving, you know, editing things and supporting and then connecting with my community and all of that. So taking rest almost felt like used to feel so guilty. And I was like, oh my God, I'm
Mm-hmm.
abandoning everybody. And it's like, no, girl, you need to sleep. You need to eat. You need to like take a beach day. And like, you know, it's why you live here across the country from where
Yeah.
you grew up. And it goes back to this idea that you mentioned in the beginning of like what makes you feel like your most light leader self and what you see in the shifts happening, that we are, to me, it looks like we are reevaluating the value of healers and light workers. I think now, because we've been facing this mass existential crisis, this mass spiritual awakening that seems to be happening, everybody's seeing their shadows. Everybody's like, oh my God, now I have to go get help and see somebody. And it's like, I need to fix this. I'm like awakening to all this stuff that I'm realizing is,
Yeah.
you know, the conditioning, the trauma, the pain, the, you know, programming and all of those things. Suddenly we're putting value back on the work that I think, I don't know why, I don't know how it happened, but that we've been expected to do for free or expected to
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice ourselves for. But I also think that's a product
Mm.
of like, you know, a capitalistic environment too, where you're kind of like work, 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 work. And if you get paid, that's great, you know, but like you probably won't. And if you're a healer, you should just do everything for free. And if you burn out, that's part of it, you know, it's part of it. And it's like, no, we really need to see that the value of healers and light workers like you guys are out there holding space for people's transformations. You're helping them become happier, which by buy product, their families are going to be happy, their relationships are going to be better, their, jobs are probably going to be better, their performance is going to be better, like everything in their life like is going to get better because you are helping them get to a place where they're going to feel amazing. And so it's so important that you guys understand the value of the work that you do, and that we've been really, conditioned to not value it. And I think there's a way to hold space both for having prices that reflect the energy you put into the products, the courses, the things that you put out there to help people, and also creating affordable options, payment plans, tiered pricing, free options, and just many, many different ways to be inclusive and reach all different kinds of people. So we can be abundant, guys. We can be abundant. We can live really well. We can take care of ourselves really well. We can live a life that we dream about because we deserve it. There's no reason that we should not have that. And we don't have to rob people to do it. We don't have to scam people. We don't have to be like cruel. We don't have to be icky. Like we can actually make it work on a human to human basis, but depending on who we're working with and what we're doing, make it a fair energy exchange and make it work for everybody. So that way, like you said, we can go from a place of empowerment and empowering both the healer and the client to really get everything they need to out of this relationship. And also, without disempowering anybody to be, to lower the prices so that we feel like we're giving things away for free, or to force somebody to pay all up front because we don't tolerate any other payment plan or structure because, we almost go the other way with too hard of boundaries. But yeah, those are my thoughts, I guess.
No, yeah. That's also, I mean, for me, in the past year, I've gone through a really big awakening, and, coaches need coaches, right? So I have a mentor that's helping me through this decolonization process of really going into all of my beliefs and all of my values and all of my teachings and seeing, okay, where has white supremacy bled in? Where has capitalism bled in? And then recognizing like what my true value is, so that just as you said, I'm honoring this energetic exchange that I am putting out with the people I work with, and even just in relationships, like what is that energetic exchange, right? Like boundaries and things we create for ourselves, especially as healers and light leaders, is not just like that financial boundary of honoring our time, but also like, who are we engaging with? What energy are we allowing ourselves to come into contact with is so important as well. And so creating these like equitable structures in business also affords ourselves more autonomy in deciding for ourselves what we get to encounter and what we get to work with, and framing it as a choice. Because I think up until this point, a lot of what we've encountered, especially as women of color, has not felt like our choice. We feel like we have to be in this grind, or we have to either charge an exorbitant amount to be at the caliber that quote unquote is successful, right? Or we have to be offering stuff for free because otherwise we're not serving the community. And so when we find this happy medium of like what is our worth, then we can find what feels good. And then it affords us again this like autonomy of energetic exchange with our spiritual and emotional boundary. And it's such a beautiful interplay once we really start to embody that. And that was honestly like the hardest thing for me. And I know we've talked about this before, of like, how can I create and be an entrepreneur and still serve from an authentic place that feels good?
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
been
I think
really important to both of us. Like that's huge, because like if we can't be in our integrity, then it's not worth it to me. Just not.
Yeah. But it's really beautiful though too, because it's allowed us to step into what we are really what we feel we're really worthy of, which again too is an ongoing process of reevaluation and reconstructing and
always
all of the less glamorous parts that what that is what truly wellness and well-being is.
Yeah, I'm so curious because when we first met, you were in PT work and kind of
Mhm.
holistic mind body coaching. And you
Mhm.
made this like pivot into empowering women of color in the entrepreneurial world and the conscious leadership space, really bringing
Mhm.
in the anti racist work, inclusivity, diversity, and just diving into so many trainings. And I've just loved learning from you when we talk on our different calls when we catch up and stuff. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can share with us in terms of how can we be better? How can we be more inclusive, be more diverse, be more open, make sure we're creating ethical, aligned, businesses that are aware and conscious of everything that's going on, and the difficulties that different kinds of people face, and incorporating that into the way we structure our businesses.
Definitely. That's that's a really good and a really tough question, right? And even for me, it's a daily practice of asking myself tough questions. I think what I found in my previous line of work was, and what really motivated me to make this shift was, especially when I worked with women of color, the most challenging thing that they had was this ability to self advocate for themselves, especially in the healthcare system. I worked with a lot of perinatal clients, people that were pregnant. And um, that was really challenging for me to see. And so I think from there, it was kind of this dive as to like, why is that so challenging? Like, what is the missing links? And it came down to really doing my own inner work of what are the structures that are in play that create these systems of oppression. And I think I did a really beautiful training about oppression, what that is, and the 4 eyes of oppression. And it basically goes into, structural, systemic, the structural systemic part, intercultural, interpersonal, and like internal oppression, and how it shows up in these different layers. And so I think that is a really great place to start, of like really looking at, especially if you're a woman or a woman of color, how has that oppression played out in your life, right? So I'm Chinese and Filipino, and so there's a lot of cultural practices that are inherently racist. And so
Yeah.
examining how that has played in addition to the systemic oppression and then internalized oppression. So, like, how have I been viewing my self worth? And how is that a direct reflection of the systems in play that I've encountered my whole life? And then also, as a business leader and a light leader, what privileges are you afforded? How are you
Yeah.
upholding the structures that are in place? And how are you, or how can you use them to uplift people instead of continually feed into the same systems? So, but those are all really tough questions, because a lot of times we either continue in a version of our oppressed self, or we continue in a version of our privileged self without even really knowing that we're doing it. So
Yeah.
taking the extra time to read and educate yourself on the history, and then see how it's reflected in your own life. I think that is, like, honestly the best way to start, because you don't know what you don't know until you know more. Which is
I
like
know
a
what you
weird,
mean.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
that saying is. It's like,
No,
oh, the
I
more
think that's
you
it.
learn,
Like
it's
you
like the
don't
more
know.
you learn, the
Yeah.
more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I feel that way too. I feel like the more I go down the rabbit hole and read all of these books, um, it's blowing my mind wide open. And it's not the first time I've, done work around my privilege and work around social justice and activism. And for those of you who don't know, my master's program was really, really, really big on that. And I was out, doing protesting and doing a lot of this work before anybody was really talking about it. And this was like, I want to say like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But
Isn't that crazy?
it was, yeah. It blew my mind the first time it happened. And watching everybody else just in this last few months have their minds blown wide open. They're reading these books like, White Privilege or White Fragility, and, and all these different wonderful, new concepts are coming up for people. It's like, yeah, I know it's a lot. It's really nuanced. It's really layered. We all belong to many different cultures. We all have many different kinds of privileges. Racial privilege is one. Gender privilege, sexual identity privilege, or oppression on the other hand. There's so many, and we have to deconstruct everything for ourselves. And it's especially if we're going to be a really conscious leader, because we don't want to be reenacting our traumas. We don't want to be on our clients or on our business, and we don't want to hold ourselves back because we like have this programming that we think we can't speak up for ourselves because we're going to be called crazy or loud, or we can't, or not, we're not like pretty enough, or pretty if we do that, or or feminine enough, or whatever, like judgments or weird things that we've like integrated into our being. Like we have to deconstruct. And so much privilege we don't realize we have. And I think it triggers people because they're like, oh, privilege, I'm not privileged. Like, I mean, I know I'm kind of privileged, but like that's not the privilege we're probably thinking about. It's like the privilege of you never have to worry about being denied alone because of your race or sexual identity. You never have to worry about moving into a neighborhood and feeling ostracized by your neighbors because you're unwanted there because of your race or sexual identity or whatever else is going on, part of your cultural background. It's like, it's things that you actually, like you said, you don't know until you know it. And when I started checking my privilege, I was like, oh my, I like I didn't even know what to do other than just cry. I just was really, really it just was so devastating. And I felt like, oh my God, here I am. And I think I'm a good person, and I'm contributing to this, system that I really didn't even realize. And we have to separate, guys. Like, you can be a good person who is learning and a good person who may not have known better, and that's okay. We can't change the past, but we can move forward. And I think what keeps people so stuck and defensive is no one wants to feel like they're a racist or they're a bad person or they're prejudiced. But guys, like, we have prejudice built into our subconscious programming. I was watching an animated movie from the 90s with Devin, my partner, the other day, and I was horrified. We both were sitting there. So it was a dog movie. It was a dog animated movie. I forget what it was called, but it was really popular, I think, back in the 90s. And there was like a really like sweet little kitten that everybody had to like protect. And like the kitten was like this very like white sounding, individual. And then like the evil, bad dogs that were there to kill and hurt and maim were African American voices. And the one quote unquote, like, I guess, Mexican character, it was a Chihuahua, and it was like the stereotypical, like, just really racist trope of what a Mexican individual sounds like. And I just, whatever that means. And I was, we're watching this and we're like, holy shit, even as like little kids, like we don't notice, but then we associate, oh, this is bad, this person's bad, whoever sounds like this must be dangerous, and that stuff, that little insidious stuff is what makes you, clutch your purse or something as you're walking without even thinking about it when you hear a voice that reminds you of that like childhood character. And it's like, it's really insidious, guys. Like, you're not a bad person. We know that, most likely if you're listening to this podcast, you're not like running around actively being racist and prejudiced. Like, we get it. So don't be defensive if you get called out. Just really be open to like learning and understanding that there's so much stuff that we who have sat in privilege don't get, and we just need to like sit back and start educating ourselves so that we can stop the cycle. It's almost like stopping the cycle of trauma, like intergenerational trauma. This is part of it.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I had someone and I was talking about them, and their fear was saying the wrong thing or
Mm.
doing something that's harmful. And I think with this territory comes the recognition that we are going to make mistakes. That's just part of any learning process, right? Like, even for me, I am a woman of color and I make mistakes as well because I also have pre programmed languaging around certain things that like needs to change, and it's just going to be a work in progress, and we're learning new things every day. And also, this work we have to recognize is not black and white. Often, especially as kids, we're taught like this is bad or this is good, like this is right or this is wrong in anything, but especially in this there's so much gray. So it's like doing our best to show up in a way that is empathetic and honoring of where someone comes from, but also giving ourselves a little bit of grace because we're not perfect, we're human. And so on the other flip side of things, like really not being quick to judge other people's actions without recognizing how that action is reflecting back and why you feel the need to be XYZ about it, why that's triggering you. And I think that's been super helpful for me of like, instead of me being a woman of color and looking at someone, another woman of color and being like, well, they should XYZ, being like, well, should they? I mean, I don't know their lived experience. They're the expert of their own lives. So who am I to say that they should or should not be offended by whatever is happening? I think was something that I had to work with within myself. So
Yeah, it's scary
again,
because
like
then it also means
it's
dealing with
super
like
scary.
it's self-regulation. It's like all those icky feelings come up where we're like, shame and guilt and anger
Mhm.
and and it's like being able to just like not police other people, to just sit with your own work is the
Mhm.
hardest thing ever. And it's look, I'm afraid of making mistakes. I make them all the time, and it's totally normal to make mistakes. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because the worst thing you could do, guys, is not try. And I think we'd all rather just like let's try putting ourselves out there, doing things differently, being more intentional, educating ourselves, being more inclusive. First things first, if you are a coach or you are a light worker and nobody in your client base is a person of color or comes from a different background as you, ask yourself why.
Mhm. Yeah, that's an easy one. And two, I think like it's this duality of recognizing the power of looking at, instead of like this or that, it's both and, right? So you can be a coach and like you said, like look at your clientele and be like, are they, am I providing equitable service? Is this like inclusive? Is my clientele a reflection of me? And say like, this can both be, something I need to work on, and I'm giving myself grace because like I know that I want to make a change and I know that I want to make a different impact. And so really like holding that space for yourself too, I think is so important.
Yeah, so like just lots of self-compassion.
100%. Oh yes, self-compassion is the hardest and best thing that we can do for ourselves.
And it is hard in this I think also in this kind of cancel culture era. It is very People are very scared. We're all scared of making a mistake because now it means like your business or your reputation could get ruined. So before you make any big like statements or anything, for sure do your research, like check it out with a few of your colleagues, friends, like to ask them if like what you're doing is in it seems inaccessible for groups of certain people or whatever it is that's happening, because you notice that there isn't the diversity that you align with now in your inner being, like the way you want to operate as a conscious leader, like that isn't being reflected in your business. um, and like one of the things that I really I do and I make sure to do, and this is really important if you're on social media and you're an influencer of any kind, is like I ask every single brand that I work with, like, what does the diversity look like in your business? Like, how do you incorporate anti-racist work? Like, tell me about your board. Is your board diverse? Do you have women on your board? Do you have people of different backgrounds on your board? And if their answer is like either avoidant or like they don't address it at all, I'm like, peace out. And then but then I've had people go, oh great, so I just started working with Medterra. I love their company, and they do CBD and CBD blends, and they immediately got back to me with, like, I'm not even kidding you, statistics about their workforce, about their plans moving forward, about their board, about like everything that they were doing, like including like charity stuff that they were involved in, and I was like, wow, damn, I love what they're doing there. They're so intentional with how they're giving back to all different kinds of human beings, and that's what I'm about.
Yes.
So like you guys can ask, like check with the people you're working with, if you're working with brands, distributors, if you create products, and you're working with different companies to create different, parts of your product, like make sure like who you're working with is aligned and is part of this movement.
Yeah, because that'll be your entrepreneurial circle, right? So you want to have as much light surrounding you, but that also keeps you in check, not just like lifting you up, but being like the same reverse of how you're asking those questions, not being afraid to answer them as well. And
oh yeah,
if you have all of those things going for you, I mean, that is like the path to being like a true light leader and really leading in this conscious way that we're inevitably going to be moving towards in the future for sure.
Yeah, because guess what? There's all kinds of people in the world, and we all deserve to be fucking happy and abundant. And it's going to start with smashing the way we've been doing things. And that means
Yes.
like you, Jessica, and me, and all you people who are listening. We need you to go start creating, light and abundance around this new paradigm that I think if you're listening, you're definitely interested in being a part of. And we can create a world where everybody can be uplifted and successful and living in their own gifts, because we are going to completely redefine what it means to be successful, what it means to be happy, what it means to be whole and, living your life. Like, I think the way we've defined it now is what's causing so much chaos, and we just have to get out there and redefine what we're doing here and the structures that we're using.
Yeah, amen to that. Stay for the people in the back.
Yes. No, this is so great. And we're going to talk more. And for those of you guys who don't know, Dr. Jess is going to be one of our amazing guest coaches in our OLA containers, both for the Ignite program and the Mastermind. And she's going to be schooling us on how we can check our privilege, how we can work through our biases, we can really understand how we are contributing, and how to the systems that are in place, and how we can adjust and pivot in ways that can create more diverse, inclusive, equitable coaching practices and businesses. So we know as light leaders in this program that we are, really living to our utmost integrity and out there to do the work of helping everyone, which is like, we have our niche, we have our people, but those people don't always have to be like, look the same or come from the same exact place.
Yeah.
We all have similar struggles, and we can look different and come from different places. So I'm really excited to have you for that.
Yay, me too. It's going to be such an amazing space to just really like up-level yourself in wherever you are in your journey. And I'm just super stoked to be a part of all the things that you're creating, because trust me, guys, for those that are listening, if you're new to her work or you've been experiencing it for a long time, it's the real deal. So, and I've seen a lot of mental health coaching and a lot of coaching in general. So,
oh my God, She's not, I didn't pay her to say that. She's not just saying that she's my friend. Like, that's so nice. I know, but truly though, like, I love this work. I love it so fucking much.
Yeah.
And I think there's like, we are living in a time of magic where there is so much available to us at our fingertips, so much possibility. And the fact that we have, the internet, and we have ways of learning that we've never had before, ways of connecting with like-minded individuals who want to see change happen. I think that this is like, we're just going to continue to push forward, and we need you guys who are listening to step into your power. Don't be afraid to start whatever business or growth journey you feel like you're ready to start, because you are here for a reason. You're important, you're needed, you're special, and whatever you need to do to get to a place where you see that, do it, because life is short, my friend.
Yes. Yeah. No time to be wasted, for sure, in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here, Jess. I don't want to keep you from your 1 hour a day of sunshine. She's currently in 2 weeks of lockdown in Okinawa. She's moving
just
there.
moved to Japan. Casual move across the world in a global pandemic, but hey, here we are.
You've never been one to do things just like average or middle of the line. And when I heard you were moving there, I was like, oh, this is going to be magic. I know where I'm having my next retreat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been a journey, but it also has been a testament to like the versatility of taking all of what I do online, and like you said, like the connections that are afforded. Like, now, hopefully, when all of this passes, because it definitely will, we can explore and for me, have access to all these different cultures, which is going to be super cool. So yeah, and come on over, do the retreat. Bali is like a few hours away or something. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Fingers crossed. I can come visit you, because I love Okinawa. And those of you guys who are listening, you've probably heard me talk about Ikigai a lot. It's like your soul's purpose, and I jam out on all things Ikigai. And that actually originates in Okinawa. So when you were moving there, I was like, now I have a reason to go visit, and I have someone to go visit there. So I will definitely be coming to see you. And the versatility of being online, like you said, is just amazing. And like the possibilities for what you can create for yourself are endless because of it. So amazing. So tell us what's coming up for you. How can we find you? How can we work with you and have more of you?
Yeah. So in October, this is actually the first time I'll be announcing it in public, but I'm going to be opening up a group mentorship container for women of color, so that we can really embody our identities, learn how to lead from a more integrated way with our ancestral wisdom, and then hopefully leading into a container for women to really like step into their leadership roles and step into whatever entrepreneurial journey they want to be on, no matter where they come from. So I'll be opening that in October, which I'm super excited about. And then I work with people one-on-one. So you can find all that info on my website, jessicamoy.co. And I live on the IG, as you know, Gab. So
we both live on the IG, everyone.
I know. At Dr. Jess Moy _wellness, you can connect with me. I seriously love having conversations with real humans and talking about real life stuff, and not just for the superficial. So you can find me on there.
Guys, go talk to her. Go work with her. She's fucking fire. And I love her. And I seriously like if I could give like an like triple million stamp of approval on a person, like, you get it. Like, she goes deep, and her work is profound and so integrated, and I just have so much respect for you, and I'm so glad we're friends and have a little love fest for a moment. But you guys go check her out. Yeah. She's amazing, and that group program is going to be incredible. So you guys keep an eye out for her. Follow her on Instagram. Is it at Dr. Jess Moy? What is your handle?
Yep, at Dr. Jess Moy _wellness is where you will find me.
at Dr. Jess Moy _wellness. And you can find her on Instagram and go check her out, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, Jess, and having this really important conversation. And I will be talking to you, I think, in the future for many more of these little chats.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And it was an honor to be on here.
Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I am so excited that you're here and that we are growing together. If there was anything that you took away from today's episode, I would love to hear about it. Take a screenshot, tag me with what you took away, and we will repost you. And if you are interested in leaving us a review on iTunes, we are going to give you a free copy of my Subconscious Reprogramming Workbook. It is an incredible workbook that helps you work through all of the deep programming that happened during childhood that might be holding you back in your life today. So super valuable. This is a $75 workbook. I am willing to just send it to you for free because I would love to hear your feedback on iTunes reviews. So shoot us a review, take a screenshot, and DM us with a screenshot of your review, and we will send you a free copy. The Light Leader community calls are also up and running. I'm so excited to be providing a completely free space for all of you guys to come connect, learn, grow, and step into your light leadership. These calls are every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I will be dropping the Zoom link in my emails for my email list. So if you are not already on the email list, head on over to my page at om_therapy_coaching on Instagram and click the link in my bio to sign up for the email list. You will be on the list for all of these community calls. You can pop in whenever you'd like, ask us questions, and we'll also be providing trainings to help you do all the deep inner work to step into your leadership and also the practical stuff to help you set up a business. It's going to be amazing. So come join us for that. The first call is going to be this Thursday, August 20th, and every other Thursday moving forward. And lastly, we have the OLA Ignite program. Yes! This is going to be launching its second round 2.0 coming up September 1st. So September 1st, we're opening the doors for enrollment, and October 1st, we begin the next round. So I'm super excited. All of my light leaders who went through this round just found tremendous success, financial freedom, personal freedom, confidence, and they're just changing the world in such unique ways that are so aligned with who they are as human beings and as soul leaders that it's just amazing to watch it happen. And I'm just so excited to provide this container and support for you. There are going to be guest coaches, specific co-coaches, me, a 12-week online course, group calls twice a month, one-to-one call support, and it's just a constant hype up. So come join us. If you are a female light leader, I am calling on you to join our community. So we launch enrollment September 1st. Keep an eye out and we will keep you updated with all the latest. Thank you again for joining me. I am so happy to connect with you, and keep coming back and letting your powerful light leader shine. We love you, we see you, we need you, and we honor you.